Hello and welcome to the Jamie Foster Brown Show, and I am Jamie Foster Brown. Today, please help me welcome one of my dearest friends in the business, not just in the business, but in life. And you know her from her very steamy erotic novels. Everyone help me welcome the one and only Zane Pooh. You know that's your last name now, Zane Pooh. Baby.
Hey, hey, how are you?
I'm okay, except for what's going on with the politically. I'm a little upset about
Yeah,
that. I don't know what
I
to
have to stop
think.
watching TV. I'm gonna have to stop watching TV. It's got me so upset. I don't need. I figured out. I might even cut my cable off. That's how bad it's gotten for me. I'm really thinking about to keep me from watching it. I'm thinking about cutting my cable off, and then that just leaves me with like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that because it really is sickening.
It's like you can't do anything. Your hands are tied. What are you? We have so many pandemics, and our president is a pandemic also. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what's
no doubt.
happening to us today is just ridiculous. And now I don't know if you just heard he just announced that if we don't okay, what did he just say? He, he's not going to give us a stimulus if we don't, until after the election.
Election. Well, no, I
Yeah,
hadn't heard that one.
yeah, they just announced that. But anyway, let me tell them about you, okay? Zane
Okay.
is the New York Times bestselling author of Afterburn, The Heat Seekers, Dear G Spot, Getting Buck Wild. Now look at her face. You don't even think that she would be writing stuff like this, but there's more. There's more here. It's The Hot Box, Total Eclipse of the Heart, and Everything Fades Away. And then she's the editor for the Flavor Anthology series, including Z Rated and Busybodies, her
Mhm.
TV series, Zane's Sex Chronicles, and the Jump Off. She always has beautiful men, honey. Beautiful. I don't know what she's from.
Yeah, I
And
have such a tough life.
they've been a feature. No, you gonna help me with this getting a man. Well, you just wait till I get finished with this. So, she's featured. A Jump Off has been featured on Cinemax and Zane's Sex Chronicles, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's called Zane's to Jump Off too. I
Okay.
think it's in both
Zane's.
Zane's to
Okay.
Jump Off.
Now, her best-selling novel, which was Addiction, was a major motion picture with Lionsgate Films. She's the
Hmm.
publisher of Stray Boy Books and imprint of Atria Books, Simon and Schuster.
Hmm.
This one, listen, Zane. Now you see her, and you see her right now. You would never know she was a sex goddess, right? You just think, oh, she must be a
Well,
school.
what is this sex goddess supposed to look like, Jamie?
That's what I'm
I'm
asking
just
you.
playing. I'm
Well,
just playing
obviously
with
they're supposed to look like you because that's what you are.
you.
You know, I have to say before we get into all that, Zane is one of the kindest, sweetest, most giving person I've met in my life. And
Aw.
and she's quiet about it. She's quiet about everything, just like she is right now. But there's a whole hell of a lot of woman right behind all that. Those masses. I don't even understand how you write all those books and how her imagination is boundless and it's
Aw.
limitless, right? And
Yeah, it
have
is.
wonderful children, mother and
I
father. I
agree.
love her, and cooks. Well, she used to cook a lot,
I
right?
cook even more now because of the COVID.
Yeah, but you lost a ton of weight, right?
I lost a lot of weight. Hmm.
How did you do that?
It's funny, Jamie. The best way I can describe it is to say that my relationship with food changed somehow.
Uh-huh.
Like I was talking about that earlier today when I was at my podcast studio and I was looking at restaurants because Jackson was over there in Hungary. And
That's her
I
sign.
used to, when I first moved to Atlanta 5 years ago, I wanted to try every restaurant. I was eating all this stuff. Now I actually don't live to eat, I eat to live, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
And now I only eat because I know I need to eat something. And I have to find stuff that I like. Like I had him get me a salmon salad I'm gonna eat later. So
Uh-huh.
it's just certain stuff that I like now. But I really like last night I didn't even eat dinner. I kept saying I need to eat dinner, I need to eat dinner. And I finally just went to bed,
So,
and
do you have breakfast? Do you have breakfast?
I did have breakfast this morning. But that's only because my assistant insisted on the way to the studio that we got some breakfast. So people have to kind of like force feed me. Like,
So when
make sure you eat something.
you lost weight, you lost how much weight? What, 50, 60 pounds? Because
No,
I didn't.
originally I lost about 122 pounds.
Oh,
I've gained about 20 of it back, maybe, which I'm happy with because I looked really, really, to me, just ridiculous. I'm still skinny. I wear like a small now, but I wear a small. I'll put it that way. But I went from a 2X, 3X to a small.
you know what? Now, see your mind
You froze again.
interesting that you just went all the way. You were small now. Huh? Did it freeze again?
I can hear
Yeah.
you, but
Okay.
I literally went down to like half the person I used to be. Now I've gained a little weight, which I'm happy with. Now I just need to, but now that I've gained some weight back, and that's really from forcing myself to eat, now I need to like get back in shape. Because ironically, when I was that big, I would go walking every day,
Mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. I had to get back into like exercise and build up some muscle strength now because I lost a lot of weight, but I have to build my muscles back up.
Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
It was already hard enough for us to get a man with you around
You're
when
so
you
funny.
no, don't be laughing. Oh, you be laughing. You laugh about stuff, but it's true. Now you know that. So now you lost weight. You pick it up.
Uh-huh.
The more men are attracted to you. They are just. It's just even when you were heavier, you still
Hmm.
had coming on to you. Is that something that you exude, or I don't know. You just you're quiet about it, but
I don't
is it?
know what it is about me. I just attract fine, successful men. And it's so funny because I went and joined a dating app like late last year.
Huh?
And my friends are laughing about that as well because every man that I've met on there has been fine and successful. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, even though they date, I mean, that's just like, I don't know. It's just what I attract.
Was that be all true before you started writing the chronicles and all this? Because you weren't writing
Yeah,
all.
because on the dating sites, I wasn't on there as Zane, but I still just the men had no idea who I was when they first, approached me. Like, and some of them still don't know that. I'm just on there as Chris,
That's
and I'm
right.
very vague about myself, but for some reason, I just attract, you know, usually
So,
men that are slightly younger than me,
mm-hmm.
definitely ones that are extremely fine, and 9 times out of 10, those that are very, very successful. So my friends joke about that. They're like, even online, you only attract fine, rich men.
Right. That's true. I mean, I've seen it for myself, But you analyze the guys, or what is it that you do? What do you see in them? What? 'Cause
Well, you know what it is for me, Jamie? It's not about, I mean, I
I
do
know.
have to have
So
women
why
who,
does it not? Do you want to get married?
but,
Wait a minute.
but you
Hold
know
on.
what
Say it again.
the deciding factor for me is two things: whether I feel any chemistry with that person right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
and whether I feel comfortable with that person. That's a big thing for me. I have to feel like I can totally be myself. I don't want to feel uncomfortable ever. If I feel comfortable with somebody, that is really big for me.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
The last guy that
No,
you
and
were
I've had some famous first dates, like one of my first dates to somebody I ended up being engaged to. I
okay.
met him on a cruise, and our first official date was we met up in Jamaica. The one that you're about to talk about, my first date with him, he flew to Maryland to take me out.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, we talked for a minute. He flew up there to take me out. Another guy, our first official date was when he had me meet him in Vegas. So I don't have like those normal
Oh,
kind. I did have a normal first date recently where I just went out to a restaurant, but I've had some pretty extravagant like first dates, like men taking me on trips for like the first date, or them making a trip, a special trip, and paying a lot of money to come see me, that kind of thing.
were they doing that before you started writing all the erotic books and stuff? Was
Yes.
that all it was?
Yeah. Hmm. And
Oh,
honestly, even the ones that I've dated recently, I mean, they didn't, even if they've heard like the term Zane, that's
mm-hmm.
not, they really didn't know about me. That's what's interesting because a lot of the guys that I date that are successful, they're not even on like social media and stuff. Like these guys, if they have like they may have a corporate social media page, they pay somebody else to run. But typically the guys that I end up involved with, they don't have that, like where they're online all the time. Like, where
So,
they're seeing stuff. They may say, oh, I've heard of you before, I've heard your name. But it's not, but in other words, that's not their initial attraction to me, is me being Zane. And I mean, and money's not an attraction to them for me because they pay for everything.
mhm.
You know what I mean? They pay for everything. So that's not it. It's just, they're just,
So, do you ever give courses to other women? I mean, you suck up all the men in the damn room, Zane. You know, I'm like, I don't even want to be close to you. I do. I mean, I love you, and we have a good time. We're together, but it's very difficult when all eyes are on Zane when she enters the room. The thing is, too,
even when I was younger, like in college and right, in my early 20s, one thing that men would say to me when I went to clubs and stuff, they were drawn to me because I was conservative. Some of my friends and other women in the club might have everything hanging out. Men would approach me because, first of all, I never look desperate because I'm not. And secondly, they would approach me because they liked my look, like the fact that I didn't have my boobies hanging out. I didn't feel like I had to have on some tight dress, to do that. Because even now, I don't wear that kind of stuff. But when I wear like a dress, that has like, my cleavage showing, so people are shocked because they don't know I even look like that. You know what I mean? Like I tried on some clothes on a set recently because I had thought about being in a scene. And when I tried on the clothes, people like, the men on the set were like, wow, because they had never seen my actual like body before. You know what I mean? They only saw me like showing up in, loose stuff to direct and produce and stuff, loose sweatpants, whatever. So when I actually put on clothes that were, were form fitting, they were kind of shocked because they had never seen that. They didn't realize that I'm like a size 6 and that I had big boobies and, all that kind of stuff. They didn't know any of that, till I put on the clothes. So even when I was younger, that was an initial attraction to people too. Like I used to date this guy from Venezuela. And when I was in college, he was attracted to me because I looked like like kind of like I do now, as far as glasses, just looking like a average person. But he was attracted to my intellect, so
well, how does
we
he
used to
know?
have
They don't always know your intellect, Zane.
but the first time I jumped his bones, it was in the stairwell of the engineering building in Howard, just so you know.
You jumped his phone.
Yeah, right there. I would go over to the engineer because I majored in chemical engineering, which is something a lot of people don't know about me. But I would be there off until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Because with that, with chemicals and stuff, you really kind of got to be in a lab. It's not, we had work, but my real stuff was working in a lab. So I would be over there very late at night, and he would be over there, and I actually wrote a story called Yes, No, Maybe in one of my books. And it was about a girl who was an engineer student. She ended up having an orgy with these 3 guys in an engineering building. Now, I didn't do that. But I did start dating this guy that was at Howard, that was from Venezuela. And I did jump his bones in the engineering building.
In the engineering room?
Yeah. Now, that's the one thing I will say about me. Like, I'm very creative when it comes to sexual stuff, even though, like you said, I don't look like it. Like a lot of these guys, like for example, one guy that I used to date who's a real estate developer in Houston, one day I met him at the Carolina Kitchen. He was in
Yeah.
town. He invited me out to dinner. And I got there and he was like, what's wrong with you? Because the expressions on my face. And I told him, I said, I have a vibrator inside of me. He was like, what? I was like, and he's like 14 years younger than me, right? He said, you have a vibrator inside of you. I said, yeah. And I said, I'm not lying. So he reached and touched, the top of my panties and he felt it. It was a small vibrator, but it was all the way inside of me. And he felt, the vibrations and stuff. But what happened, I was having orgasms there at the table.
But wait a minute. When did you start doing that? You never told me anything. I'm going to come and wait a minute. Put your face close to the screen so I can smack you. You never told me a damn thing. Go ahead.
Ended up at the end of the date, I went and took it out and I gave it to him and he saved it. He took it with him, like, 'cause he traveled a lot and he took that thing with him. And then another time I met up with the same guy in Richmond And he had left me because he traveled a lot he traveled like 200 and probably 50 days a year for his job. He had a big prominent job. And
Mhm.
so I met up with him in Richmond. I was there doing a book signing and he was there for his job. So he left me a key to his hotel room. You know, he told the desk to give me a key. So when he arrived, I had written all these signs out on pieces of paper.
What
Like,
is
you know, I heard you have good, you know, DICK,
uh-huh.
you know, are you so? So I didn't want him to say anything. It was silent. I had written all these notes. I said, well, I said, I'm about to go take a shower. But when I finish my shower, I want you to, you know, F me down into the mattress. You
Uh-huh.
know, I met him at the door, you know, doing that because I told him, I said, when you get here, I said, don't use your car key to get in. Tell me when you're at the door. And so I opened it and I role played basically. I had these signs that I had written out and he had to read them. He read them all out loud.
Mhm.
And it was pretty cute. And
So
he kept those signs too that I made.
when did you start doing that? When were you always, let's go back to a little girl when you were 12, 11, 12 years old. Were you looking at guys at that time? Were you sexually charged, or when did all this start
Yeah,
happening?
I
Because
would say
not
that I
only the
looked
sex, because you,
I would say I looked at guys, but I lost my virginity probably later than a lot of other people. But a lot of guys were taking me out.
mhm,
Like actually, I met my ex-husband when I was 10 and he was 15. He had to wait for me to age. So I had my ex-husband when I was 10 and he called me when I was about 17 years old. And he
mhm.
wanted to let me know before I found out because he was very close to a lot of my cousins in North Carolina. He called me to let me know that he had got engaged. And you know what I said to him? I said, that's all right. I always plan to be your second wife. And because I'm so
No.
young, I plan to be. And he's shocked by that because I told him when I was 10 that I was going to marry him. And what ended up happening, of course, when he got married the first time, he assumed it was going to be forever. So he was shocked when I said that.
Mhm.
But he ended up getting divorced and we ended up getting married.
So
You
how long
know,
were you
I
married
wasn't
then?
ready yet. I wasn't ready yet. You know what I mean?
Mhm. How
Yeah.
long were
And
you
so
married? How long were you married?
honestly, we ended up not being married that long. I don't know the exact duration. I guess we married about 3 or 4 years finally, you know, 3 or 4 years.
When
But
guys get
I
with
always
you,
knew I was gonna marry him.
huh?
I told him I was gonna marry him, and I did. We ended up getting married.
When guys get with you, do they think that they're going to have sex every night? Is that what their expectation is with you?
Yeah, I'm not like that in the beginning. I'm very, very, you know, like I said, I had to feel comfortable with somebody. I'm not jumping in bed with anybody. And I make them get tested, which everybody needs to
You used
do,
to tell
you
me
know.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to get tested, but you know, if they want to even have a slight chance of sleeping with me, that's a requirement. If they don't want to do it, then they're 100% no. But at least if they take the test, they know there's a chance. If I get to the point where I tell you to get tested, and I actually send the men's test in myself, I don't play.
Yeah.
I get the test and I have them take it and I send it in. I prick their finger, I get their blood, and I send the test in to get them tested, and I get the results.
So how old were you when you became sexually active, though?
Oh Lord, probably 18 or late 17, early 18, something like
But you,
that. I
but you
wasn't
had
young.
this, you had sexual feelings before that. I mean, but you just
Oh
didn't act.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've always been comfortable in my sexuality. Like for me and with all of my children, they know that they can talk to me even at a young age. Like I know all of my kids' business, both my sons and my daughter. Like when they started having feelings, when they started, you know, discovering their bodies, when they started having sex. I mean, I know all of that. Because they feel comfortable and I felt comfortable talking to my mother about it, you know, and that's
Okay.
important for people to feel like, and not only did I feel comfortable talking, a lot of my friends back then in high school and college,
Hmm.
they talked to
Hmm.
my mother instead of their own mother. Like they felt comfortable talking to her.
So mom was the one that, mom and dad are still with us, right?
No,
Okay.
my mother passed last July.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, bless you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed your parents, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
she was like that, too. She was open minded also, so that you
Very,
felt. Hmm. What about
very.
your? Hmm.
What about what?
What about your siblings? You know.
You know, my siblings, because my closest sibling is 2.5 years. Like she and I probably know You know, we traveled in some of the same circles when we were younger, kind of dated guys that were friends and, you know, that kind of stuff. But my older sister, you know, is 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really, I was telling somebody this earlier today, when I was talking to somebody, I've never, because I was asking him, do men really talk about their relationships with each other? And I was telling him that typically with me, most people don't even know who I'm dealing with until it's serious. Like most people find out when I'm living with somebody or engaged or something like that. They don't know about people I deal with, you know, unless it's a very serious relationship. You know, like I don't bring men around, you know, different stuff that I'm doing, you know, unless if I bring them around, it means like, okay, we're like in a serious, committed relationship. You know, but outside of that, I don't bring men around or talk about them or anything like that.
Last time we were together, the guy, he lived in Atlanta. You know who I'm
Hmm.
talking about, the football.
Hmm.
So what happened with that? You guys were pretty, I met him and you guys were pretty serious about each other. And actually, I thought you were going to get married. Did you move down there to, you all moved down there, you moved down there to get married to him, or how did that work out?
I moved down here because I wanted to move down here. I would say he probably had maybe 10 to 15% of the reason why I moved here. But I had already planned to move back to Atlanta. You know, I lived in Atlanta a long time ago.
Okay,
And when
okay.
my kids were younger, I actually had my mother come to North Carolina. When I was in North Carolina, I had her come to North Carolina. I came to Atlanta and tried to put everything together, but it was just way too much. So I needed to find daycare. I
Yeah.
needed to find school for my oldest son. I needed to find a place to live and I needed to find a job. So it was too, you know, much going on for me at that time. But I had always said I still wanted to move back to Atlanta. So part of it was the weather in DC had gotten really, really bad. I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I moved down to Atlanta. The biggest reason I moved to Atlanta, though, is because it's the Hollywood of the South. And I
Yeah.
wanted to really do more production. Like I've shot 2 movies this year. I wanted to do more production, but I would have to leave my house in Maryland and go to New York or LA. And I didn't like doing that. I didn't like leaving for 7, 8 weeks or more at a time. So the main reason I moved to Atlanta is so I could pursue doing television and film production in a way where I could come home every night. Like I said, I've shot 2 movies this year, but I came home every night. You see
When
what
are
I'm
the
saying?
movies coming out? Have
Well,
you?
I had a discussion early today about that. One of them will probably be out by the end of the year. The other one probably in the spring. But I'm going to shoot another movie in February. So that was my main reasoning behind it. But to answer your question, believe it or not, as fine as successful as he was, he had security issues. Like he didn't want me talking to any other man. Like if I brought another man around, whether it was my cover designer or an
Are you serious?
author or anybody else, he would be really, really nasty towards them. You know what I mean? Like he didn't want me around, he didn't, even some of my female friends, like if we would be out somewhere and I would run into some of my female friends, he would kind of like not want me to be, talk, like he would want to just spend that time alone with me. Like say if we went to a restaurant, if I tried to have some of my friends join us because they happened to be there, he would, get upset about that. It was really more of, it was just interesting, but yeah, with all that had going on, he was very, very insecure. Is my whole point, and that led to our demise, quite
Right.
frankly,
How
because
long did it last, Zane? Was it about 6 months that you guys were
oh no, it
together?
was much longer. No, it was much longer than that. It was much
Wow.
longer than that. Yeah,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
much longer than that.
You were
At
really
least,
happy
at
at
least
that time in the beginning.
years or more. But yeah, he was just very, like I said, that's the only word I can use is insecure. And like if he would ask me like questions like, who is that guy again? How do you know him? Different stuff like that. He just very, people that happen to know that he was dating me, like they would approach him, like say, oh, we really like to do this with her. He would shoot them down, that kind of thing. He just, it was just interesting. It just, and I'll tell you why I left. It was because of what I talked about before, that level of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows sometimes, but some say this, he would say stuff like, I don't know why you're mad. He never raised his voice to me. He never touched me. He would say that. He was like, I don't raise my voice to you. I would never, hit you. Like, why are you? He couldn't understand why I felt the way I felt. And it was true. He never once raised his voice to me. You know, and he never once touched me in a, you know, in a bad way. But in his mind, some men, I bring that up to say that some men feel that as long as they're not being abusive, verbally or physically abusive, that the relationship should be perfect. But with him, my issue with him was the insecurity and him trying to like control who I dealt with. You know what I mean? And I just didn't, you know, I have to deal with men, not in a sexual way, but you know, I have men that, you know, are my authors and,
I know.
you know, that I deal with, you
Right.
know, on a business level. So I couldn't just like, you know, cut off everybody because he was going to be insecure the second they came around.
So how did
You
you
know,
cut him off? Did he just leave? I mean, was he? How do you get out of those relationships?
I'm trying to remember what happened. I mean, it wasn't
You're
some
like,
knockdown.
what happened?
Yeah. You know, it wasn't some knockdown drag. I mean, we've spoken, you know, since then. It was more like I just couldn't take it anymore, you know, and that was part of the conversation, you know, but I've never, you know, I've never yelled at you. I've never touched, you know, hit you. Like, what is the problem? And he couldn't, here's my whole thing. If you have to keep repeating your needs to someone and they're not listening,
Mm-hmm.
eventually you have to say to yourself, well, obviously he's not going to fulfill my needs. So what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here and be in an unfulfilling relationship, or am I going to let it go? And that was what happened with me. I was unfulfilled because I didn't feel comfortable. You see what I'm saying? In the beginning, I felt very comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
you
him and I
got.
just alone. When it was
Yeah.
him and I just alone, I felt very comfortable. But when we got around other people, even if some of his people, you know what I mean? If he took me, like he would take me out to dinner with other couples and stuff. And I would notice, like if the man who was married and there with his wife, like said something to me, he would get, you know, not
Look,
fidgety, I don't know the word to
yeah.
deal with it. But you know what I mean? Even with his people, men he took me around. You know, and I noticed like a lot of times we would be somewhere and he would like if it'd be a couple, like we were at Houston's one time, we walked in there and there was a couple there sitting there waiting on the table. And so he went over, you know, he just spoke to them first. And then before we went to the table, he took me back over there to introduce me to them. But it was more like he was introducing me to the wife instead of like with the husband, he was acting kind of iffy. And I'm like, you know, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he took me over there and said, you know, this is my girlfriend, you know, and that kind of thing. But I could tell it was just crazy, really, really, really crazy. To
So
make a long
who?
story short, it wasn't a life that I could continue to function in. You know what I mean? And as older I get, the more I realize there's a difference in what you want in a mate and what you need in a mate. Like now I'm very, very clear on what I need in a mate. And while he checked off a lot of those boxes, you know, me being uncomfortable. Like I had to be comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I just wasn't, you know, comfortable.
So Zane, how do women? Do you ever
I,
advise women how to get a man or how to? Used to be we were told like you don't have sex with them right away because then they lose interest. That sort of thing. At least in my time, that's what that's what was told to me. But today, is there anything that you can share about how relationships can build and what we should look for in a relationship? You've been around a lot of men.
yeah,
You're very observant. You're very observant.
yeah, and I get a lot of advice mail too. But this is what I've noticed: women need to stop acting desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Women need to have certain basic standards they want in a man, and if that man doesn't meet those basic standards, then that should be an automatic deal breaker. You know,
What's the
we don't have
standards?
to. Well, for me, my standards might be different than somebody else's, but a woman, like I believe a man should take a woman to his house. I don't think a man needs to be moving into a woman's house. I
Mm-hmm.
think a man should take a woman to his house, or either if he's serious, buy them a house. You know what I mean? I think a
Mm-hmm.
man should be able to pay for dates. Not, you know, if you need, like if you want to travel, I'll put it this way. I had a guy tell me one time who was trying to date me, actually, a guy that owns a business in LA. He told me, he said, you don't need to date anybody who makes less than $250,000 a year. And I said, well, I'm not a gold digger. He said, that's not the point. He said, you need to have a man that if you want to go to Trinidad, you know, on a vacation, you know, he can pay for it. You need to have a man, if you want to go out and have a $200 dinner, he should be able to pay for it. Now, I realize I'm a little bit different. What I've learned over time is that I'm not going to dumb down my lifestyle to make a man feel good about himself. You know what I mean? So I had to have somebody that, and it's not that I'm gold digging because I can go buy my own $200 dinner if I really want it. But I want a man that, he's not tripping if I say, let's go to a certain restaurant. Like if I say, let's go to steak or let's go to Ruth Chris or something like that, he's not like freaking out and that kind of stuff. I do like a man who spends quality time with me. That's like, those are my quality time and physical touch are my two love languages, but it starts with quality time. I want somebody,
What's
and I
that?
don't want, and I don't feel like, just like with me, I don't feel like my career is a personality trait. It's just what I do as a career.
Just what you do is
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm not like, oh, he's a lawyer, he's a doctor, whatever. That to me is not a trait. That's what he does for a living. But a lot of women look at a man and consider that a personality trait. That's the first thing out of his mouth. Oh, he's a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
As if to say, I could not be attracted to him. I can not, but he's a lawyer. For me, I feel like that's where a lot of women mess up. His job is not a personality trait. You need to have somebody who's supportive of you and your dreams, because a lot of men, and I'm sure you've seen this with successful women, a lot of men, they'll try to ruin things that are happening for their wife or girlfriend. Like if she's getting an award or she is, starting a new business, having a grand opening in her business, he might do something to kind of try to sabotage her day.
Why is that? What do you think?
It's jealousy. I think it's jealous. A lot of it is jealousy. I think you need to find a man who, like in the past, I've had men who've been attracted to me because of my strength
Mm-hmm.
and, because of the way I, to handle my business and stuff. But when those same traits don't go away, it can get cut off like a faucet. When they start talking to me, they get offended. Like if they know I'm not going to take any crap off anybody else and I'm going to speak my mind, why wouldn't I speak their mind with them? But with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, everybody has flaws. But one thing I always say, and like even for me, I know what my flaws are. I say, turn your flaws into your features.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I know, that's what makes me unique. My flaws are what make me unique. That's why when I look at TV shows, I like and read books. I like characters that are flawed. I don't read or watch about perfect people or anything. But this is what I always tell people. I tell people everybody has flaws. The people that I keep in my inner circle are the ones whose flaws I can accept.
That you can
And that's
accept.
even, yeah, if I can accept their flaws, whether it's a loving relationship or just somebody I know, if I can't accept their flaws, then I just can't be around them. Doesn't mean I don't love them, don't mean I don't like me. You get what I'm saying, right? So
Right. I'm wait a minute. They're telling me I have to let you go at 5:45. I thought you said I have you till 6 o'clock.
yeah, I can because I just had to hop on the other call at 6. It's
Oh,
the Habitat for Humanity thing, yeah.
I understand. So listen, do you have somebody that you're dating now, sweetie?
Um, I'm not in a committed relationship right now, but you know me, Jamie. I mean, yeah, do I have people I hang out with? And yes, they're all fine and
I
successful.
know
And
all of them are fine and successful.
so, but right now I'm really concentrating on work. It's really hard. Like 2 guys who texted me today, asking me like, what am I doing? That kind of stuff. It's a time thing for me right now. I'm really focused, on stuff, but I do go out. I do, talk to people
Do
and we'll
they
just
do
put up
they
with it.
expect you to do the things with them that you have in the book that you write about in the books? When
No,
you say
nobody comes at me like that.
they
If
don't.
they come, yeah, if they come at me like that, it's like bye.
So Zane,
I put it this way, if we get to that point,
mhm.
you know, I'm very comfortable. I don't have any inhibitions and stuff. But it really, like, if I'm not feeling you or if I don't care about you, I'm not doing nothing. So, but if I care about you, like I said, physical touch is one of my love languages. But I mean, if I'm not there, it doesn't matter. Don't start talking to me about sex and this, that, and the other,
Is
because
there
that's a
anybody
privilege.
in your life now that you like?
Hmm.
Is there anyone in your life now that you like?
I mean, there are a couple of people that I like. There are a couple of guys that I still talk to that are long distance, but that's not really going anywhere. Like one's in California, and I'm not moving to California. One is in Houston, and I'm not moving to Houston. So we just deal with each other on the level that's there. You know what I mean? Like one of them came here and looked at houses, but then he decided to stay where he is, and I understand that. There's a reason why he's there because he's a single father, and his daughter has siblings there.
Okay.
Sisters. So I can understand, that would be taking her away from her siblings. So that's understandable. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm not willing to move out there, so that's not really, that can only go but so far.
So
So, but he's in
you're
Atlanta.
still filming though. I'm sorry, you're still filming, and you still like I know you had a very handsome guy that we did a story on him in one of your movies, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Still feel
you're still filming right now, and you got hand because
well,
you
I
always
finished filming in August. My next film date is November 5th. But then I'm doing these monologues. It's going to be a short film, short shoot. But it's going to be two different sets of monologues that I'm going to put on Amazon. One is going to deal with life issues for women. Like I'm going to have 10 women that are doing these monologues on different topics. And then the second one is going to be on women that are promiscuous, which is going to be very interesting. Them
yes,
doing like
yes.
monologues and talking about their sexual experiences. So I'm doing that. But my next feature film, I'm planning on filming in February, and I
Okay.
might do an actual short film that I'm going to star in. I might go ahead and knock that out this year with two fine men
Uh-huh,
called The Work Husband, where I'm married to this really fine guy,
uh-huh.
and he's taking me for granted. And he doesn't realize that the Tracy that I always talk about at work, who brings me lunch and, compliments me, and so that he doesn't realize that Tracy is a man until my car breaks down one day. He has to come to work to get me. And he finds out Tracy's this 6'4", fine, fine man. My husband's fine too. But that gives him like a wake up call, like, wait a minute, and I'm gonna look like this. My husband's really, really fine. He'll be an MMA fighter. But a lot of women have work husbands. 'Cause they spend, before COVID, they would spend more time with the people at work than they did with
That's
their
right.
spouse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
So I
go ahead.
that. So I plan to shoot and star in it. That's gonna be pretty
What about the
fun.
movie that we did the cover on? Is that one finished? Did you finish that movie?
That, that is finished. And the guy actually, Kevin Savage, that you did that for, he actually was just on P Valley and on there's a Emmy talks about a role he played on Lovecraft Country. One of the episodes he played the sergeant of the main character, but it was a really deep role. So people talking about that. His next movie is The Underground Railroad, which is based on the Pulitzer Prize winning book by Colson Whitehead, and it's directed by Barry Jenkins, who won, the black guy that won Best Director for Moonlight.
Okay.
So he's really doing a lot. And then he just shot a pilot, and I can't say the name of it yet, but he just shot a pilot Sunday for a new black dating show they're putting on Bravo. So he has a lot going on. Mm-hmm.
So what else can you tell women today about being with a man? How should how should they act or
Mm-hmm.
what should see men come to you naturally. I mean, that's what
Mm-hmm.
we just finished talking about. But things are different now. You got the Cardi B's and you got the WAP, and I think women take their bodies and what's between their legs and they put that out there first.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like that. Do
Well, I
you
would say if a man really wants to get to know you, he'll wait. I'm not saying you need to wait a long time. I haven't waited a long time in some instances. I'm not even going to say that. But just be cognizant that every woman has that. You have to figure out what do you have to offer a man
right,
outside of that. And
right.
the other thing is to make sure you're equally yoked. I mean, people say scoff at that, but really you need to be equally yoked with whoever you're dealing with.
Did we
You know,
did you ever women have enhanced their bodies and putting all kinds of these big behinds and all that. What are your thoughts on that? Is
I
that
think that
necessary?
I'm not ever doing a volunteer evasive surgery. I can tell you that much right now. If I
Hmm.
had to have surgery for something that's like I have to get it done, that's one thing. But I'm not, I don't recommend that. And I've seen women that have changed everything for a man,
Hmm.
and the man still left them for somebody else. I've seen women, not just their bodies, but they've done all things bent over backwards to keep, to get and keep a man, and then that man will leave anyway, because sometimes that they lose respect for you, if you do all of that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not saying that love is not about some sort of sacrifice, but don't make a fool out of yourself over anybody.
Do you want to
And when you
learn again?
and
Do you want
here's the thing, pay attention to red flags. A lot of women
oh,
look for the red flag on top of the red flag on top of the red flag. No, that first red flag was really a red flag. You know what I
what's a
mean?
red flag? What's a red flag? Tell me that. Give me an
Him not
example.
calling for days at a time. You know, him not being available at night. He only talks to you during the day. You may text him, he may not text you back for 2 or 3 days. He's not consistent. He stands you up for a date at the last minute. He treats you like an option instead of like a queen. He doesn't. The signs are there. When a man is doing something that he shouldn't be doing or that you don't like. And here's the thing, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to accept every man that comes along and all of his stuff. Because if you accept it and get in a serious relationship with them or a marriage, they're going to continue doing it. They're going to be like, well, you knew I was like this when you married me. You thought I was going to change. No, you married me knowing, because I've seen women do that before. They think if they marry a man, all of a sudden, all of the stuff is going to get cleared up. No, it's still going to be there. That man's not going to change overnight because of you. And he feels like you've already accepted all of his BS. So why would he change? And then another thing with women, when you decide to leave, have a fight and say that's it, stick to it. Don't do some big production, get about, like, for example, you over a guy's house and he gets text in the middle of the night and you get upset and leave. You see what I'm saying? Don't come back next day. You haven't done anything but just cause a bunch of drama in the middle of the night. If you're really going to take a stand, take a stand. You know what I mean? Most men know you coming right back. They're like, oh, she just needs to cool off. She'll be back.
You don't come right back. Once you leave, you're gone.
Once I'm gone, I'm gone. Yeah, I'm gone.
What have you broken any men's hearts?
Lots of them.
Apologetically?
I mean, it's just like one of my ex-fiance, for example, we broke up, gosh, forever ago. He never got in another relationship, and he always tells me, but he still calls me and we still talk, and he still tells me he loves me. And he said, you took something from me I can never get back. He recently just told me about one relationship that he had and why it, broke up. But he's never, since me, he hasn't fully recovered. He feels like I was the one, and he says that all the time, I took something from him he can never get back. Like, he doesn't even want to, like, open his heart again like that. Or he hasn't found, when he came to my daughter's graduation, for example, he came to her graduation, he flew up from Florida. He said, he hasn't been able to find anybody else like me. And so, yeah, I have, but I still would never go back because the things that he did, I mean, he should have known better. I told him from the beginning, what would make me leave. And he did one of those things and then act like I was supposed to accept it, and I didn't. So that was it.
What was it? Can you tell us what that was?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think he cheated on me. I know he thought about it. I know he tried to make plans to do it. Now, I don't think he ever actually did, but my whole point is and I understand now, I understand why he did what he did, but I wasn't going to accept it. He did what he did because of, you got to, this is an important point. You really have to understand your mate. So with him, I knew because his father got shot and killed when he was young. And I knew that his mother had basically chosen a man over him when he was like 17. He left and never went back, never lived in his mother's house again. I knew when I met him, he had this thing where he feared things being taken away from him. His ex-wife had cheated on him with a neighbor. I know he had this fear of losing something. Like, so for example, his house was completely paid for because he didn't want to ever worry about losing his house. It was paid for. His car was completely paid for because he didn't ever want to have to think. So with me, I think it became like almost a fear that he thought because he couldn't, I'm going to use the word control, because I didn't do I didn't do everything, take his advice about every single thing and do things the way he wanted. I think he had a fear of losing me. And I think in return, that made him like start talking to somebody else. He wanted somebody else to make him feel, really, really important. But that was his downfall. You know what I mean? Like I had a storyline about him on Zane Sex Chronicles, and when he saw it,
Oh.
Said he called me and he said that's not how it really happened. Because on the show, my character, her fiance, cheated on her with a guy with a girl he met online. So that's how it happened on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He actually did meet this woman online, but he, called me to tell me, that's not what happened. You know what I mean? Like I didn't expect you like that and literally, go do that. And I said, no, but I said, but the show was the show. But no, but I said, but I know you thought about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you thought about it. And it's like, if you think about it, if you talking to somebody, hours of the day, that kind of thing, I'm not for that.
Do you
Work your
have
stuff
any?
out.
Do you have any fears?
I have many fears. I
Mm-hmm.
have, a fear of the coronavirus. I have a fear of my kids and family members, catching that. I'm worried because I have two black sons in today's society and even a black daughter. And I'm even worried for myself because women like me go out and doing nothing and end up getting shot,
Yeah.
or get shot in their own house and all that stuff. So, yeah, I have those fears, definitely.
How do you feel about George Floyd and what's happening now with our in our community? And
That was, I mean,
as
it was
men.
one of the most terrible things, I've ever seen before in my life. And when he cried out for his dead mother, I think every mother in the world, around the world, felt that.
Mhm.
I even saw, they were protesting down here, and there was a bunch of, white people right out in front of my house marching across the bridge with Black Lives. They had the babies out there in strollers. They made like a shrine of flowers for his daughter. My neighbors who were very bougie all of a sudden were out there asking people if they need to use the restroom. Did they need any
Really,
water?
really.
So it was like it was this change in people. And I saw this one video, and I don't know if they were Amish or they were just a particular religion, but I saw this video of some people, in Amish type of clothing on a bridge holding up signs saying Black Lives Matter, justice for George Floyd, and they were out there singing and chanting and stuff. And I'm like, wow, they don't even, the whole point is they don't even have TVs.
Mhm. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But they were out there, protesting.
Well, now this is what's interesting to me is that we, you see some of us acting up, and then so like Trump and them feel like, oh, these we're like heathens, because we're
Right.
killing one another. The killing of so many people have been shot and killed up here in New York since then. It's ridiculous. What is that attributed to? We turn on each other.
People bolder now. They're bolder, and they think they can get away with stuff because they are getting away from with it. Police officers are getting away with stuff. And I think he's made it seem like it's okay. Like it's almost like, you know, I think a lot of these people today, if Trump tried to bring back slavery, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I want to own some slaves." I really believe that.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
really believe that. That there are a lot of people still today that feel like they're that more important than other people that they would literally like to own people. I really do think some people still think that way.
I do
And
too.
he's made it okay, to think like that and to act on stuff and to do crazy stuff. And I feel like I interviewed somebody myself last week, an actor, and he's also a painter. And he brought in this painting of like to symbolize a black man in America. And
Mhm.
the whole point was, it said one-sided love on it because he feels like black men love America, fight for America, do stuff, but America doesn't love them back. But it was interesting because the black man was walking on eggshells, and that's the name of the painting, "Walking on Eggshells." And he feels like, the black men in America, like he feels like if he gets on the elevator with a bunch of white people, he knows that they automatically fear him. So he
Yeah,
said it feels like a lot of times he has to walk around on eggshells.
yeah. What do you think would given what's happened to us and the climate that's out there now, what do you think is the best thing? Because we turn on ourselves. I know I have family members who just think that black people are just the most ignorant things out there. You understand? Because they don't look at what the history is or how that person got to be
Right.
that person at that time. Because we don't when they're born, they don't come here slapping their mama. There's a conditioning that's done. So what one thing, if you will,
Men-
you would
Mentorship.
suggest?
Mentorship. I think people need to mentor the young. I think we got to catch them while they're young,
Mhm.
change their mentality so they don't grow up angry, so they don't feel like they're in a spot that, they can't get out of. And I'm going to tell you this one story, then I'm going to get off because I'm sure you know her. So Marcia Dyson. You know Marcia? Okay. So
Yeah.
I was over her house one day having lunch with her, and she told me a really deep story. This was years ago. You know, she does a lot of missionary work.
Yes, I
So
do.
she had gone to Syria, and she went to one of those tent cities where the men pick up their guns in the morning,
Sincerely.
go out to fight, and the
Mm-hmm.
women and children stay there with nothing to do. So she said she told the guy that was the head of the camp, she's like, well, I'm going to get some clothes for the women, and I'm going to get some activities for them to do so they're not bored all day. And I'm going to give the kids some toys and all this kind of stuff. And the guy said, no. He cut her off and said, no.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, why not? And he said, because we want the kids to grow up angry and pick up guns. And we want the women to feel like they can never leave. And what Marcia said to me after, she said I had to go halfway around the world to find out what's going on in a lot of communities here in the United States. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, a lot of our young kids grow up angry, they join
Well,
gangs.
they sure
And a
do.
lot of women in the projects and just like, feel like they can never leave. They just feel like this is it. This is
This is
their
it.
life. Yeah. And I thought that was very profound
Mm-hmm.
when she said
Mm-hmm.
that. And it made a lot of sense.
How can we change that? How can we begin to change that?
I think that it's a mental thing. I think that we have to reach back into the community, and a lot of people are doing, but I think we all have to do it. Like I work with a lot of young girls. You know, I work with two different organizations, but I'm actually going to start up my own mentorship program again because I started one when I moved here to Atlanta, but all of my girls have aged out now.
Okay.
But a
Okay.
couple of them that are 18 and 19, they said they want to help me with the new group. They're willing to help me because I encouraged them. I got them in college. I encouraged them to start their own businesses. Like one of the girls, she has her own tutoring business and she's in college now. And her mother even talked about, I took her from not high school to graduating with like a 4.3 GPA.
Wow. That's good.
You know,
Wonderful.
so I'm going to start my own, even though I work with other, girls with other organizations. I'm going to get me a whole new set of girls
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to work with and take them from like 13 to 18. Because I've
Well,
been here 5 years. So the ones that I originally had, like I said, all of them are grown now.
you age
So I'm
down.
going to give me a new set and let the one that I mentored help me mentor those.
When the girl, this last question, the tutoring thing, how did that? How did she charge people? Like she would just charge the parents or the kids
So the women,
$5?
her name is Tavia Shell on Instagram, TavioChelle. That's her name. Her real name is Katavia, but TaviaChelle. And what she does virtual tutoring and she does in-person tutoring. And so she charges like $25 an hour because she just turned 18. $25 an hour, and she teaches in different subjects.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you for. We have lots more to talk about, but we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, we can do it again.
We
Yeah, sorry.
always enjoy each
I
other.
gotta go volunteer, but I would love to talk, more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we have some other things to unpack too, and I want to share with you, and I want to get out of you too. I was like, Zane, tell me about X, Y, Z. I've always loved you. You've always been. It's so good that we reconnected. I just am going to say that,
Yeah.
because we were so important to each other in our lives. And then, we lost my husband and I moved and all that. So I'm glad we're back together again.
I am too. I am too.
Thank you for visiting with me. Love
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye bye. Love you too.